Welcome back to episode 6 of the Ripples podcast. My name is Aaron Francis, and today with me on my show, apparently, are my co hosts, Greg and Michael. Just a little bit of fun there. Thanks for having me on the show, guys.
Hello, great to have you.
Hey, Aaron, how's it going, mate?
Good. I'm so excited to be here.
Excellent. So, the reason, if anyone has not guessed, the reason that we have Aaron Francis on this show is because he is the spiritual leader of this movement of what started out as um, putting yourself out there and doing things and having good, unexpected things happen, which is a mantra that I personally carried forward at Laracon AU last year, which transformed into this idea about ripples and the ripple effect not being anything that I created, but something that kind of encapsulated, I think, really nicely what Aaron was talking about. And then now moving into this try harder era of Aaron, and not to I read the blog post that you put out, Aaron, and maybe you could speak a little bit to that. But I thought, yeah, trying hard is probably what it is. And then the announcement came for your new venture on the back of your tumultuous couple of weeks, on the back of a tumultuous couple of months since your second set of twins were born. So we're excited to have you here and to talk not about necessarily your business aspirations, but around the movement that kind of drives, and I think that you embody really well, particularly in our Laravel community. But as we saw over the last few weeks since the incident, since the event, that there is a following of high profile and well respected people all across various different industries, not even just the web industry. So it was beautiful to see that despite the reason, despite being let go from employment, how the community that really that you have built around yourself, whether intentionally or otherwise, came out in support of you.
Yeah, that was kind of, the past few weeks have been wild for many reasons. One is getting laid off is that's a surprise. So it was kind of whiplash a little bit because I'm on paternity leave, or I was on paternity leave, and then I got laid off while I was still on paternity leave. And so right there, I'm already like, holy crap! Like I'm getting geared up to go back to work. I'm like feeling a lot better physically, ready to ready to go crush it. And then 2 days before you come back, it's like game over, friend. I'm like, shoot, what am I gonna do now? And then putting like it's just it's unique because I've never publicly looked for a job. I've looked for a job on the sly, which is how I ended up at Tuple before Planet Scale. And then Planet Scale sent me a DM, was like, hey, come work for us. And so I've always kind of just done like the normal job hop thing, and this time it was just totally different because it's like I'm not beholden to anyone. I don't have to like hide from my current employer that I'm, unhappy. And so I put out a tweet that was like, "Hey y'all, this is a little bit embarrassing, but I just got laid off and I need some help figuring out what's next." And at that point, like I had already booked myself to go see Dune 2 because it was like my last week of paternity. I'm like, live it up while you're free. And so I walk into Dune 2 and I'm like, just got laid off. I'm gonna, order a bunch of Diet Cokes and chicken tenders and just like live it up for a little bit. And I got out of the theater and was just like dumbfounded, blown away by the response on Twitter alone. And it was really like moving for me to see, like, yes, a lot of people, were like, oh man, that sucks. But I feel like even more than that, a lot of people like genuinely had compassion for me and like were willing, in their own words, willing to go out of their way to make sure that I ended up okay. And it's like, man, that is that's just not something that you experience that often. It's just an outpouring of, love and affection like that. I feel like that happens with great sickness or death, and then, with death it doesn't count. Like you're not even there to hear it. And I felt like I was listening to all these people just be like, "Hey man, whatever it takes, I will help you. I got you." And that was really, really powerful and moving for me to experience that.
Yeah, I think when I saw your tweet, it's early, I guess early morning my time.
Hmm.
Um, I was initially like, oh, that sucks. That's like couldn't have happened to like a nicer person, but very quickly I'm like, there is absolutely no way this guy's not landing on his feet. Like, I think what was it, Ian was saying that like for the next 2 days, the Twitter was just about Aaron Francis. Like,
Hmm. Yeah, he put up the still frame from Ferris Bueller and changed it to Save Aaron instead of Save Ferris, which was really funny.
It was nice that after all of that, that you had your like, the saying usually goes, you don't want to be the main character on Twitter, but
Hmm.
I think you were the main character, and it was not like a devastating thing. It's not
Yeah.
like we found out that Aaron Francis is secretly the most cynical bad person on
Hmm.
Twitter, but it was everyone, all of the outpouring, all of the clips that made it into that sensational video that you and Steve put
Hmm.
together,
Yeah,
or Steve
people
and you, I
talking
guess, because you were just
on
there.
podcasts. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
crazy.
I think where you've kind of landed was an inevitability from my perspective, that like you would at some point, whether sooner or later, have ended up doing something incredible for yourself. I think that you kind of got forced into it.
Hmm.
And I suppose I know that you're on paternity leave and you weren't thinking about work, but I'm sure there was some part of your brain that was thinking about what you would be doing, in the future, that it's not necessarily like it was planet scale right now, but what
Hmm.
is Aaron Francis's future, where like it was just a strange, I understand like economically, financially, from a business perspective, that like, sometimes the best people do get let go, but you were the
Hmm.
face of the company, which was the strangest thing. Like
Yeah.
there are thousands, hundreds of thousands, there are an innumerable number of people that did not know about Planet Scale. And like, I get the argument that like all of those people are on free tier and they're not really,
Hmm.
contributing to the bottom line. But word of mouth is and always will be the most powerful form of marketing. So, I think Planet Scale, the business, will be fine. I don't think the hubbub around it is going to impact them, especially considering the
Yeah.
kinds of customers that they're actually chasing and that they have on their books.
Yep.
And I think, like I said, for you, this was just the push that you needed. It's like, well, why not now?
Hmm. Yeah, that was the place that I came down, was why not now? And I've got at least five good reasons of why not now, and that would be my wife and my four kids. So those are honestly, those are pretty good reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But it like, if from a family point of view, now is like the craziest time to try to go out on my own. From like a work point of view, now is it makes the most sense in the world for me to go out on
Mm-hmm.
my own, because I get to come out of Planet Scale scot free, right? Like
Yeah.
I think the public record will show faithfully executed my duties to the uttermost,
Yeah.
and then I get to leave without having to like feel bad about becoming the face of this company and then being like, "Thank you, I'm out of here."
Yeah.
Like I didn't make the call. So
Yeah.
did I become the face of a company that I'm no longer at? I sure did, but that really, that wasn't my call.
Yeah.
And even thinking like, when I was at Planet Scale, thinking about the far future, I felt a little bit of like emotional turmoil over eventually quitting one day. Like I was going to
Mm-hmm.
stay, I was going to stay until, hopefully there was some sort of exit and I got fabulously wealthy. But I thought at some point I'm going to have to leave, and I feel a little bit guilty about that, just preemptively being like, hey, let
Yeah.
me let me run your whole YouTube and be the guy, and then at some point I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
And that was just removed as a concern, and now I get to enter into the marketplace unencumbered, and like, as the empathetic or sympathetic character. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I did my job really well, and then I still got fired, and like, so now people kind of want me to win even more. And so
Yeah.
I thought, from a momentum perspective, from like a PR perspective, from a work opportunity perspective, like, a lot of people want to work with me right now, and I don't,
Mm-hmm.
I don't take that for granted. And I think that is like, this is all lining up that right now makes the most sense. And frankly, like, if I crash and burn, that's okay. Like, I did the I'm gonna try it out on my own. I did like
Yeah.
the American dream thing, and I can crawl back and say like, hey, all these companies, I tried really hard to do something on my own, and that was a noble pursuit, and it didn't work. Can I have a
Yeah.
job? And I don't think I will
Yeah.
have lost. I don't think I will have lost
No,
very much in that way.
No.
no. I think also too, in terms of timing, it's given how hard you work, like at least from the outside looking in, when you were working for Planet Scale, it looked like that was like pretty much 150% of your effort
Mm-hmm.
was going there. And if you were to
Mm-hmm.
go and take a job at another startup, or
Yep.
I'm imagining that a whole bunch of like Fortune 500 companies probably reached out to you as well.
Mm-hmm.
You're just going to put all your effort into being the best you can be at that, and not being the best
Mm-hmm.
you can be at your own thing. So like, I think it's time to sort of like reap what you've sown in terms of like building
Yeah.
this profile, and really for me, and I was speaking to Michael about it when we were trying to get you on, and I'm like, this is the sort of end game, I think, of like putting yourself out there. This is like, 2+ years of
Mm-hmm.
being that guy, and then
Mm-hmm.
being able to now cash your chips and try something for yourself. Which, and if you look, I would have been super happy for you if you went off and worked for Vercel or something
Mm-hmm.
crazy. Um, but I'm like even more happy that you're just going off now and saying, no, I'm gonna roll the dice. I'm gonna try this out. And
Mm-hmm.
you're right. Like, it's no harm, no foul. You'll be right
Mm-hmm.
no matter what. And I think you'll probably even be better for having tried to do something
Yeah.
than you would have if you didn't.
Yeah, I think so, and I think you're right about the effort that was required to faithfully execute my duties as a full time job, as a husband and a parent, and try to like try to make my dreams come true as well. And I think I recently came I recently came to the conclusion that like something has got to slow down, something has got to give. And the one of the great benefits of going out on my own is that now I just feel like I have unlimited time. Like, I feel like the world has opened up before me, because I'm like, I walk into this office at 9 in the morning after playing with the kids all morning, and I walk in here and I'm like, great, I get to do I get to pursue my own things all day long, instead of being like, oh shoot, I gotta record this video and I gotta do that for Plan Scale. And then I gotta be sure that, like, even though I want to kind of tweet about screencasting.com and in the middle of the day, like, that feels a little bit like, am I
Yeah.
shirking any responsibilities? And now there's no problem at all. I can be on Twitter as much as I want and making YouTube videos as much as I want. And it's
Yeah.
like, that's the job now. And so
Yeah.
that has, and like, when I was contemplating what to do next, like, should I start a SaaS? And I thought, no, this is the wrong time in life. I need to be able to produce discrete work products between 9 and 5:30 or 6, and then go
Mm-hmm.
home. And like,
Yeah.
the shape of the thing that I'm doing now, I think fits the stage of life that I'm at. I'm not responsible for production. I'm not responsible for anything. If I can
Yeah.
record a video and throw it over the wall, that's great. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of how it all lined up with, like, I can't continue to give 150% effort. Maybe it is time to reap what some of that effort has produced in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, SaaS is hard too. I mean, I think everyone gets
Oof.
hooked up on, I'm going to free myself by doing SaaS, and it's like, no, you're just making yourself a bigger set of chains. Because I mean,
Yeah.
you tried it with your
Oh yeah.
with
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
you've tried that game before. it looks really great to have recurring revenue. You know, the business runs while I sleep. But I think, yeah, the the world is like littered with the corpses of failed
Yes.
SaaS ideas. I mean, I think we've all got
Yeah.
one in our pocket. Whereas, yeah, you're right. Consulting is okay. There's less recurring. Like recurring is harder with SaaS
Mm-hmm.
with consulting because you're sort of at the whims, I guess, of what budgets look like for companies. And I'd imagine, given your
Mm-hmm.
production value, that you're not going to be cheap. Um, but you know, it's you can still it's sort of it's a lot more achievable, I think, and it's a lot
Mm-hmm.
closer to what you were sort of doing. And then you'll build
Yeah.
products out of it. You'll turn some of this stuff into more courses, and to get that sort of continuous revenue
Yeah.
sitting around the back.
I think so. And I think yeah, I think just like the direction to keep it on, the podcast brand. Like I've been putting a lot of stuff out there, right? And as I've been putting stuff out there, I feel like the direction that my career, if you can call it that, has gone is kind of like meandered a little bit. And I do feel like everything at this point in my life is pointing towards this thing that I'm doing now. And it's not pointing towards create a SaaS. Like there are a lot of great developers and a lot of people that could create great SaaS. I don't think there are as many developers who want to be on camera, who want to teach, who want to do the like be in public thing, and who have the backing of producer Steve, who has like unbelievably good taste and talents that I don't have. And so, like, I feel like everything that I've been doing over the past many years has led me to be right here where I am. And SaaS would have been like a hard left turn for no apparent
Yeah.
reason.
I think
Mm.
also all of the things, all of the experiments that you've done, there was Refine with Colleen, there
Mhm.
was Airdrop, there
Mhm.
was, the Hammerstone journey, all of these bits and
Mhm.
pieces that kind of branched off. It was all,
Sidecar.
yeah,
Mhm.
Sidecar,
Mhm.
all of these things that you've put out into the world have all been good, but they've also helped you to kind of, you know,
Yep.
bowling ball down the alley, bouncing
Totally.
off the bumpers,
Mhm.
putting you where you are. And I think that's, unless you put yourself out there to try all these different things to find out what is the thing that draws you. What is
Mhm.
the thing that you truly, truly want to do? And that, as we saw at Planet Scale, as we saw with your personal channel, as we've seen you grow, you know, content creation is it.
Mhm.
And for a long time, that was for a company. I even
Mhm.
before that, like I was listening to your podcast with Adam Wathan this morning,
Mhm.
and the reason that you ended up at Planet Scale was because you were already working on that MySQL course.
Mhm.
You
Yep.
know, that work is what, sent you down the direction of working there. And it was a good
Mhm.
12 months or whatever it
It
was.
was, and while I was there, it was a great job. I loved it. It was awesome. Yeah, and they found me because I was publishing articles about MySQL just on my blog. Like, yeah, it's crazy.
So, unless you're out there, no one knows. Like Greg
Yep.
knows this. He's had all of the material about high performing teams and being successful in that environment. But it wasn't until, he took the stage at Laracon for a talk that he didn't think he was giving, of the ones that he submitted. It's not this one that he thought
Mhm.
was going to be selected. And now he's, starting to build this consulting business on the
Mhm.
side. Maybe this is what Greg pursues. He didn't know
Mhm.
that. He knew that it was the
Yep.
information that he had.
And I think that's a super important point, is like you can have good strategy. And I think of myself as a very strategic person, and even thinking so highly of myself, I never would have guessed that like this is the end game. And maybe this is not the end game, but like looking back 2 or 3 years ago, I wouldn't have guessed like, yeah, I'm going to wander into, open source and then wander back into, paid closed source packages that's kind of SaaS shaped, and then into video. And like, I couldn't have known. And I think if I had tried to end up where I am right now today, I don't know that I would have been successful in getting there. It was just a matter of like, all right, I'm going to put the next thing out and then I'm going to see what happens from there. And I think pinballing down the alley is a pretty accurate description, but I think a lot of people think I think it is a common failure mode to think I don't know what the end game is, and therefore I'm not going to make a move until the end game has become clear. And I think that is a potential mistake. That would be a mistake for me, at least.
Yeah, it's the bias for action thing. You got to try something. You've got to like the is it Jeff Bezos with the bias for action is like just
I think
sometimes it's faster to just try something, anything, and get the feedback. I was speaking to a client yesterday about it, and he was sort of asking me whether or not he should submit for Laracon AU. The answer to that question, by the way, is yes, always.
It's always yes.
Please do.
There's no harm in submitting, whether you sort of win or lose the Michael Dorinda popularity contest is neither here nor there. But I was like, and I was sort of channeling my Aaron Francis when I sort of said your job isn't to make people like the things or accept the things that you do. Your job is just to do stuff, just do lots of things, and the more of those things that you do, the more chance that you'll find a niche, and the niche will be surprising. As Michael said, what I'm doing right now is, I mean, I thought I was a career, and probably still think that I'm a career, tech lead, development manager kind of guy. But who knows? I don't know. I don't know what's in store for me later on. Just try a bunch of stuff. Like you've got to do some work anyway. It's hard to know what's going to work. Your only other option is to stay in bed and like feel sorry for yourself. So just do a thing, and who knows? It might turn out. I mean, I didn't know. What I met you 2 or 3 years ago, Aaron, and I at that time I would never have thought that you're going to become this like YouTube content creator sort of guy. Like that wasn't the path. That wasn't the path you're on at all. But through like a series of somewhat. I mean, you can look back and see how they're related now, but at the time, a series of unrelated kind of events all sort of come together and culminated in this like really fun and interesting and I imagine somewhat scary, but
of course,
ultimately it will be very successful. I have faith that this is going to be huge for you. So try a bunch of stuff. Just do it. Yeah,
I mean, you have to work anyway. I think like you're right that work is noble in and of itself. Working hard is a noble pursuit, and as it happens, it leads to a lot of great things. But like the work itself, for me at least, trying hard to do a really good job leaves me feeling better at the end of the day. And turns out it bends the world around me and brings me good things. But like I never know what those things are going to be, but I have so much historical evidence that working hard leaves me feeling emotionally like good. I end feeling worn out and like, yes, I put myself into that. And I have so much evidence that putting that out there is going to bring you something. And I think a lot of people get hung up on like, well, I want this specific outcome. And I'm like, I don't know. That sounds tough. Like, I'm sure that you can do that. That's great. But people don't optimize enough for, I want anything good to happen. And I don't know what that thing is yet. And I just feel like the answer is easy. Just give something your entire, like, I feel like Joe Tenenbaum is he's this year's example. And I feel like he's right at the early stages or even the middle. But like, let's goof around with prompts for way more time than anyone should put in. And now he's given talks. He's doing Laracast course. He's the guy. And I feel like that is the case study of this year is Joe Tenenbaum.
And that's a really interesting one because that's really, really hard to see. And I think Joe, we had Joe on a couple of weeks ago, and I think he'd probably agree with this. But it's really, really hard to see how like being a goofball with prompts is going to lead to something, but you kind of know that it is. You just like I can't see where it where it turns into a thing, and it may not even be
Right.
prompts related that it turns into. Right? It could just
It
be
might not. Yeah.
Probably won't.
yeah.
Probably won't.
But yeah, bet on Joe for sure.
Yeah.
like
I mean, when I did, when Jeffrey was like, "Hey, Aaron, do you want to do a Lyricast course on Sidecar?" I remember thinking, "This is awesome! I've freaking arrived!" And
Yeah, yeah.
at the time, I had it was my everything to be a Lyricast instructor, and that's where Joe is right now. He's done a bunch of work, and people have noticed. And Jeffrey is publicly on Twitter, which is my favorite thing that has ever happened. Is Jeffrey's been on Twitter being like, "Hey, Joe, you want to do a course?" I'm like, "Yeah, see, it's working.
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking
Yeah.
about."
And you keeping notes on your own tweets from 6 months ago.
Yeah.
See, I told you
Yeah.
this would happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you file that at the time, or did you actually
No,
go back?
I
through
just
your history?
remembered it. I
just
just
remembered.
totally remembered it. What did I say? Like, this is going to be your thing, or this could be your
Yeah.
thing, and then
Told
I
you.
dug it back up. Yeah,
I think
Yeah.
there's even just value in you being that guy, being the cheerleader. Like, I think
Mhm.
it's such an encouraging and positive thing that, in spite of everything going on in your life, two sets of twins, working 150%, burning the candle at both ends, that you still have time to cheer on people that are still coming up. Which is, largely the impetus of this podcast, is to talk to those people and to see, at whatever stage of that journey that they're on. Joe acknowledged that, yeah, he's the prompts guy for now. Maybe that's a thing for a while, but who knows? Like, this is
Mhm.
where he started, but he's probably got other interesting things.
Of
Probably
course.
he's got other
Mhm.
interesting things to say that we don't know about yet.
Mhm.
He's a theater guy, a
Mhm.
trained actor. So, who knows
Yep.
what that turns to. We've got Daniel and Rissa doing the Laracon
Mhm.
Grand Slam this year.
Mhm.
It's maybe we get someone else doing it next year.
Mhm.
It's the
Mhm.
reinforced encouragement as well, right? It's Rissa and Daniel have done it, and now they're encouraging other people. They've
Mhm.
got Joe. They're bringing him on the journey. It's an incredible way to see the world. To go to these conferences, to see parts of the world that you probably wouldn't get on a plane and just fly to
Mhm.
Uttar in India, or go to Amsterdam. Those kinds of things. Um, to have that encouragement from the people that have been there before and so actively doing it is
Mhm.
I think the best part of the Laravel community in particular, to
Yep.
because there's no one is, there might be some degree of envy or whatever, because that's inherent in human nature, but there's no negativity towards people going and doing their thing.
Mhm.
And people are always, here's advice, here's what you can do, if you want help, I'm here. There's always someone willing to do that. And you know you're going to have even more time to do it now that you're not putting in
Mhm.
300% effort across two jobs. It's
Mhm.
all going to be the fact that you churned out screencasting.com, that like it just kind of happened as quickly as it did, as effectively as it did. I'm sure a decent little nest egg for yourself, that
Mhm.
kind of smooths over this blip in your
Yep.
otherwise, full-time employment, until you're going to be swatting away people that you will have a choice of who you want to work on, or
Mhm.
work with Try Harder Studios. All of this reinforcement and positivity. It's
Yeah, and I look at that as like I try to be as self-aware as possible, and I am fully aware now that I have been given some amount of influence, or some amount of power almost, and I
authority. Yeah.
feel, yeah, I feel like it is my like almost like my sacred duty to bring people along. And so, for example, I mean, we've talked about Joe. I think somebody that's even earlier in their journey in this regard is Mary, last name
Mhm.
Mary Perry. I think her handle's I don't know what her handle is. It's is Cephrius or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, I met her at Laracon Nashville, and she was first time Laracon attendee, didn't really know anybody at all, just like bravest thing in the world to show
Yeah.
up to a conference by yourself without knowing
Mm-hmm.
anyone. And yesterday she's live streaming on Twitch trying to do some Laravel stuff. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I popped in and I'm like, Mary, I am so freaking proud of you. Like, top 0.1% of people that's willing to go on stream
Yeah.
with and like risk not doing things right. Like, that is the risk when you go on stream, is you look like a dummy. And I've done
That
it,
is
and
almost the
it's
guarantee. That is
terrifying.
almost the
Yeah.
guarantee when you go on stream, is that you
Yeah.
suddenly forget how to type, how
You
to
forget how to do
program.
anything, and it's so embarrassing. And you're like, is the video running? Is the audio on? Am I
Yeah.
doing this right? And I
Yeah.
can't remember. And just like the amount of effort it took for me to go into her stream and hang out until my next call. So I had like 10 minutes, and so I just popped
Mm-hmm.
in and popped in and hung out in the chat. Like, the amount of effort there is pretty minimal, but I know that that is an encouragement to someone
Mm-hmm.
else in an outsized way to be like, I can't believe someone showed up to my stream. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I came, I wanted to see. And I think
Yeah.
that is like, that is that's inherent in me, but I think it's also inherent in the Laravel community of like, when I got laid off, you know who reached out? Everybody, but specifically
Everyone.
Matt Stauffer was like, "Hey man, I could find some projects for you." And I'm like, "What? Why are you so
Yeah.
good to me? Like, why are you
Because he
like
is good
pulling?"
to everyone.
He is, and I think
That is
I
who
think
he
that's
is.
I think that is like the bulk of the Laravel community, is people want to see other people win. And I don't feel
Mm-hmm.
like there's, I mean, even the Livewire inertia thing, it's like, hey, we got two awesome competing frameworks, and we love them both, and we support them both, and everybody is friends. It's like,
Yeah.
that's not normal. That's not normal outside
No.
of this
No.
community.
And it leads from the top. Taylor, Matt in the early days,
Mm-hmm.
Jeffrey.
Mm-hmm.
All of those guys. That is how the community has led, and it's good that what are we 12 years now into the Laravel story, that it's as true now as it was when it started, because it's about helping people to build things, to change their circumstances, to change their lives. You mentioned Mary at the start of her journey. That was Jess Archer 6 years ago.
Yeah, totally.
Same kind of thing. She came to a conference not knowing anyone. Then she spoke at a conference knowing a few people, and then
Mm-hmm.
it ends up that Jess works at Laravel, that she's
Mm-hmm.
shipping all manner of amazing
Mm-hmm.
things. You don't know where the journey ends. And the journey hasn't even ended. You don't even know where the journey goes until you get on the road. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think it's really easy for people in the community and for creators and stuff to kind of think like in a really insular kind of way, like and we're all kind of in it for ourselves to some regard. Like we're trying to be successful and do our thing. I think though, like where you're like specifically different, Aaron, from like the majority of the community, is that your thing is to be the community cheerleader. Like that's and I mean I've had a few conversations with you where I've kind of been like, should I do this thing? And like the answer is always just like, yes, you should totally do that. Go and do that thing.
Yeah.
And like, but it's good because like there's, if I ask myself the question, the answer is yes, you should do the thing. But then the self doubt, then the sort of like,
Course.
yeah, but it's not going to work, and oh, that seems really really hard, and what if I put in hundreds of hours and there's no payoff, and
Mm-hmm.
whereas Aaron will just go, what if you put in 100 hours and there's no payoff? So
Mm-hmm.
what? Just
yeah,
work really hard.
you've got the
Mm-hmm.
experience now of 100 hours of doing something
Yeah.
that you learn from. 100 hours of Refine ended up with MySQL for Developers, which ended
Mm-hmm.
up with PlanetScout,
Mm.
which ended up with
Mm-hmm.
the Aaron
Exactly.
Francis Studio of Light and Sound, and
That's
this
right.
whole new adventure. Like
Yeah.
even seeing someone extremely successful, you still see that the ebb and flow
Mm-hmm.
of the journey.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Good luck looks a lot like hard work. Good luck
it
looks a
sure
lot
does.
like hard work.
I like being the hype man. Like I I really, really like that. Um, because I think that maybe particularly in the like the developer world, we're all so maybe logical or reasoned that we can talk ourselves out of anything, because that's the whole point, right? Where we can code for every single edge case, and so we have to think about every single failure mode. Like that's how our brains work, is like, how could this go wrong, let me fix it. And it turns out like when it comes to trying to make your dreams come true, you can talk yourself out pretty quickly if you start thinking about failure modes. And so I like being the person that's like, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. I know that directionally, if you put yourself out there, it's going to get better. Is refine, for example, going to make me rich? No, turns out I spent a lot of time working on that and it didn't really
Mhm.
go anywhere. But that which led to, and now I'm here. And so I
Yeah.
just have a lot of like, I feel like that's inside of me, but I also just have like that's my life story. And so someone else may have a different story and they're more like, well, you need to carefully calculate your next step because that's how they did it and it worked out for them. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think the message that developers usually need to hear is like, you can do this and you should give it a shot and just kind of see what happens. And that's the message that they don't hear very often.
Yeah. People, you say we test for edge cases, but the thing is,
Mhm.
we write a failing test. Like we find those boundaries and then we work past them, around them, through them,
Mhm.
like that is what we do as developers. People forget that bit when they're thinking about all of the failure modes. It's like if you fall down 4 times, you best be picking yourself up 5. Like you don't learn as much from your successes as you do from your failures. You don't get better
Mhm.
by just doing the same thing. You get better by trying new things and learning, was that the right thing? I don't know. Unless you go out and do it. I
Probably.
keep pressing Greg. He's like, "Should I
Mhm.
do this?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like, what have you got to lose? You are employed full
Mhm.
time and you're trying this other thing on the side. If it doesn't work
Mhm.
out, you're no worse off than you were before, but you might be 10 times better off if it comes off.
Yeah, something I have had to remind myself many times in the past several years is that like I am optimizing for I am optimizing for Aaron Francis Incorporated. And I think it's easy to look at like individual things and think, oh, those things failed or those things didn't work as well as I wanted them to. But all of those things are in service of Aaron Francis Inc., right? And so if these things fail, like great, take that and continue to move forward. Like let the thing go, take the learnings and continue to move forward. And I think some people get hung up on like, oh shoot, I tried this SaaS thing and it failed and like that was it. And I'm like, no, you're in the business of you. Like, yes, that thing failed. Move on
Yeah.
from that failure with no loss of enthusiasm on to the next thing and see what happens.
Yeah.
And I've had to remind myself a lot because I've done a lot of things that didn't work and continue to do things that don't work.
For sure. So, do you want to get a plug-in for
Sure.
your new venture?
Yeah.
Do you want to
Yeah.
sort
Yeah.
of give
Yeah.
us the
Yeah, for
elevator
sure.
pitch?
So, my friend Steve and I, and Steve worked with me before on some video stuff. So Steve and I have struck out on our own, and we've opened a video production studio. It's called Try Hard Studios, and basically the pitch is we can offer basically anything. But what we're saying right now is we're offering two things. One is your company has an existing dev ed or devrel team making video. And Steve and I can come in as consultants to that team and make them, easily 3 to 5 times more effective in terms of like marketing, basically making the videos work better. And so we're looking for a few clients in that regard to like help level up your existing team. I think the contact us for pricing or the enterprise sales side of the business is you just want us to do it. Like you want us to do the whole thing. Like you want us to produce an entire course for your product or your technology or whatever. And Steve and I can do that as well. We've also been contacted about like doing some one-off stuff or like doing some fun commercial type stuff, and we're like, Yeah, sounds great. So that's kind of the world that we're living in, is like, let's make really, really good video that is targeted at developers. And so that ends up
Mhm.
being like dev tool companies. And so yeah, tryhardstudios.com.
Excellent. I'm
That's where you can
interested to
find it.
see
DevRel as a service.
DevRel as a service.
Mhm.
I'm interested to see in particular how that like enterprisey offering goes, because I know like it
Mhm.
could be fulfilling for you personally because you have to learn all these new things and whatever else. I think that the
Mhm.
tricky thing will be putting yourself in a position where you uh, give a shit enough to learn those things well enough to
Yep.
then teach them. I think that
Yep.
that will be the hardest part of that offering. If it's like learning technologies that
Yeah.
you're not excited
And
about or you're
that's
not familiar with, like if you suddenly have to go and yeah,
and I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't
yeah.
take
So
those.
this,
I wouldn't take those jobs because I know, like, I know that no offense to anyone, but if I have to learn TypeScript and React, like, that's going to be
yeah,
a massive lift that I'm not going to be thrilled about, and it's going to come through in the material. And so, like, that is why, one, it costs so much money, because we're only going to do
yeah,
this for a few companies, because I don't want to be, the face of every company. And two, it's going to be a big lift no matter what, but I can't do a GraphQL course.
hmm,
Like, I just don't know it enough, and I would feel weird slash bad, like, holding myself out as an expert
yeah,
when I'm not. And so the number of, well produced courses that we can do is
mm,
is honestly, it's pretty small. So that, I think that is interesting, but there are other things that we could do. Like, if you want me to do a course on your whatever platform, like, maybe if your platform's really interesting and, like, I could have fun learning it, for sure. But sorry, TypeScript, not gonna happen.
No hard pivot to React server
No,
components in
afraid
the future.
not. Yeah, I think I'm good at learning, but
you
I
have
do
to
have my
want
I
to
do
learn
have my
as well. Yeah,
limits.
I think that
Yeah,
making
that's exactly right.
your existing DevRel team thing will probably be a solid niche. And sounds like you've got a lot of interest for it. But
I
even
hope
like
so.
as we said,
Mhm.
bouncing down the alleyway, you might, spin out a course of
Mhm.
10 episodes, 20 episodes of something that you learned along the
Mhm.
way. So
Yeah, and I think we're finding that to be the case even now. Like, the bouncing part. Like, we'll go into these calls and we're like, "Hey, here's kind of what we're thinking," and they're like, "Great, we're kind of thinking something else." I'm like, "Great, what's on your mind?" And so, figuring out, like, I know what our skills and talents are. What is the market demanding, and how do we make those two things meet? And that's what we've been doing this week.
perfect. Well, I wish you all the success in the world with that. I mean, I think
Buy
you've got
stocks
what it
in Aaron's
takes between the
company.
two of you. Yeah, buy stocks in Aaron Francis. Um, yeah, I wish you well with the journey. I hope everything goes well. I'm sure that it will. And I will be eagerly watching all of the behind the scenes and the content, and I will be refamiliarizing myself with screencasting.com as I get ready to start doing some uh, some Laracon AU videos in the
Love
next
it.
coming months, which I'm sure no one watches, but I had a great time making them regardless. So
They were great.
yeah,
Yep.
perfect.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm super honored to be here, and hopefully, one of these days, I'll get down to the great down under, and we'll get to all hang
Well,
out
there's something
together.
happening in
For
November in
some.
my hometown. I don't know if you've heard about
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is. I haven't heard about it yet.
it.
Honestly, if we can pull it off, December is my wife and my 10-year anniversary, and so if we can pull it off, that would be a fun trip. It's just a matter of, like, getting down there, and who's going to keep the kids for that long.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's
Come and
definitely
cuddle a
on the
koala
table,
or
though.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not taking them on a 25-hour flight, though. That's the problem.
Not four of them.
No
No.
way.
Not for.
No, not any of them. Sorry, guys. Yeah.
Well, there's plenty to do down here. You can like wrap yourself in a giant python or cuddle a koala or
Yeah. Or a drop
all of
bear
the.
that's gonna kill you. Yeah.
Just don't talk to
Only
Steven.
if you
He'll
talk
will
about
just
Marmite, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
trying. I don't know what that stuff is, but I'm not trying it. I saw pictures of y'all eating that on stage, and you got no chance, zero chance. I don't even
I
know
don't
what
know.
it is.
It's
Delicious.
yeast. It's our version of it. So there's Vegemite and
You
there's
lost me.
Marmite.
You lost me at yeast. You don't
It's
even have to go.
it's basically brewer's yeast and salt. I think is kind of the
No.
yeah, we grow up on it. Like it's kind of
Yeah, that
it's
sounds
kind of
awesome for y'all. Yeah. I'm not doing that. No freaking chance. Yeah. No way.
All
Nope.
right. Well, this has been really awesome. I'm really happy that you were able to make the time in your busy schedule, Aaron. I've been sort of hoping to get you on like from the start. Like I said like Michael said at the beginning, this is we're out here sort of presenting the message, but it really is your message, and I think like you've completely inspired this for us. And thanks for coming on. You can find us at ripples.fm and all of the usual socials. Michael will get this out shortly. Well, it'll be out when you're listening to it, I guess. And if anyone else would like to come and talk about their Ripples journey, reach out to myself or Michael on the socials, and we'd be happy to speak to you. But until next time, I've been Greg.
I have been Michael.
I have been and remain Aaron.
Goodbye.
We'll see you all next
everyone.
time.